All right, hey everybody, it's Brandon. It's a little bit after 1 o'clock, and we're gonna get started with our workshop today. So this is gonna be a little bit different. Um, I'm still going to use some slides, more slides than I planned, but the ending slides are actually your questions. So questions you sent to me via email, text. Some of our students who are now following me on my work Instagram, we got the questions. I'll be looking at the chat box. So if you're watching me on YouTube, it's about 20 seconds behind. So I may pause, look over, and see if we have some questions. I may go back to something. But I'm happy to have y'all here. So our big picture updates, I have some updates from SSS. We're gonna talk about graduation apps, decisions, changes to processes, because we're no longer on campus. We're not gonna make it back on campus until late summer, if that. So we need to be thinking about some new processes. I'll answer questions from the emails. We'll do some live questions. So per Canvas, you can still text me. I'll be looking at the phone. I'll be looking at YouTube. And then we'll wrap up. So hopefully this sounds good. If you agree with me, put it in the chat box. So the biggest reminder for my TRIO students, we extended the Grant Aid application deadline. So instead of it being due Friday, May 1st, it is now due Sunday, May 3rd. We extended it a couple days because y'all haven't applied. This is free money. So if you're in student support services at Howard Community College, you get the Pell Grant, please apply for Grant Aid. If you don't get the Pell Grant, still apply for Grant Aid. You never know what can happen. Use our Canvas site. This workshop was sent out to students in Howard Pride and Bishop Career Links, and Silescraft Collegians. Each of these cohort programs have their own Canvas site for either their class or for their program. Engage with them. For TRIO, we have discussion posts, assignment activities which lead toward Grant Aid, and just other ways to build community. Please engage with us. We miss you. And this is just one way for us just to continue building that family. The other piece, and this I think to all students at Howard Community College who are watching me right now, complete your HEC Educational Foundation Scholarship application by Friday, May 1st. That is our priority deadline for HEC scholarships. So if you visit howardcc.academicworks.com, get it in. It's a short application. There are about 3 short answer questions. The HEC Education Foundation Scholarship app, the reason why we moved our Grant Aid deadline is because of this. So you should be able to apply for both monies. Also, any of our cohort programs, please use our hashtags HEC Stronger Together, coming back to HEC. We want to engage with you. We want to share what y'all doing, because our homes are our campus, and our campus is our home. So we miss y'all. So that's just a message from Carrie, Stephanie, Rashad, and myself to our TRIO family and to everyone who's watching us. I wish this workshop was happening in RCF 305. So let's keep it moving. If you have not done it yet, please apply for graduation. Please apply for graduation. I know that when we moved to remote learning, some of us were talking about getting our applications in for summer. We still have time to apply for May. for spring graduation and for summer graduation. Contact your cohort advisor from your agency email. We'll walk you through the process. It's a little bit different in this virtual realm, but we'll still get it in. Students who are applying for summer graduation should also be registered for the summer classes that they needed to take for graduation. Thinking about commencement, we have not heard the update to what we're going to do for commencement for this spring. But remember, once you finish your graduation requirements, you will graduate, you will earn your diploma, it will be mailed to you. So just in case, if you are like, I want to go to commencement, cool, but it does not stop you from graduating from the college. So please email your cohort advisor. We'll walk through the application, we'll get it done. For a lot of students, having your diploma is really important, especially when we think about transfer scholarships. The other piece we're thinking about now will be deadlines. So we're approaching the regular deadline for many institutions. So when we're thinking about application deadlines, there are two types of deadlines: priority deadlines, regular deadlines. The priority deadlines for most schools had either money attached to it or knowing that you will have an admissions decision by mid-April. So congratulations to everybody who applied during the priority times and they're getting their application, their acceptances. Those emails, those texts, those messages are awesome. Please post them on your social media, share them with us. We really want to make sure that everyone knows in our programs that you got to schools you want to get into. I'm really excited because notoriously College Park has been hard for students to get into. And we've had more students this semester get into College Park. So it's telling us a couple of things: that we're preparing you better and you're following our directions. And College Park is realizing that our students coming from Howard Community College are continuously awesome. For those who are thinking about fall 20 and you have not applied yet, this is the time to finalize your list for your transfer schools. Um, and then if you're thinking about transfer for next year, so spring 2021 or fall 2021, we need to be thinking about your process. We need to start thinking about your deadlines. Students who are entering for spring 2021, your application deadlines can be as early as August 1st, which is College Park's priority deadline for transfer students for spring 21. If you're thinking about nursing, even for fall 2021, we need to be looking now at what are the deadlines for those institutions. I have a couple students I know who are looking at schools in California. So the Cal State system, UC system, University of California system. Your application month for those schools is November. There's no questions about that. You have the month of November to get those applications in. So we need to be thinking about these things really early. We need to be able to be processing that. You should have a list. Figure out what is your tool, whether it's going to be a Google Doc, a note on your iPhone, a board in your room that you can take a picture of, so that we know what schools you plan to apply to, what are those deadlines, and what we need to be planning for. For those who've now been accepted to schools, this time we're getting right now the enrollment commitments. So you got this packet in the mail, you got an email saying, hey, congratulations, you got admitted to College Park, you got admitted to Towson, you got admitted to North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. May 1st for many schools is your deadline for making your commitment to your institution. How do you choose the school? So your decision factors should include looking at your transfer credit report, and I'm going to talk more about that later. But right now, your credit report is going to look a little bit weird. If we know that you're supposed to earn your associates in May, but all they transferred in was 45 credits, it's okay, because you're likely in the last 15 credits needed for you to graduate with your associates. That should be okay. But if we know you're supposed to earn your associates in May and you're taking 15 credits, but they only accepted 30, we need to start asking questions. Did we need to send another transcript? Are we missing something? Do you have AP credits, IBs? Is there something else there? We also want to review your financial award letter. We need to figure out, okay, you're leaving Howard Community College. We were relatively inexpensive for you. You're going to a four-year school. It's going to cost you more. Let's work through the numbers. Your cohort advisor, we actually have a little chart that we can put in your financial award letter, the estimated cost of the institution, and figure out how much is it really going to cost for you to go to school, and we can try to make your best options. And then we need to think about housing. Housing is, for a transfer student, it can be really difficult. So it's important to think through those pieces, and then we can make a decision. Other piece is this: if you don't have a decision by May 1st, don't worry. We're in the middle of a pandemic. There are a lot of relaxed deadlines. There's things changing fluidly. It's going to be okay. And the other thing is this: if the cost to confirm your enrollment is an issue, talk to us. Send us an email, send us a text, call us. Most of us are checking our voicemails. Some institutions may allow you to defer the cost of your fall bill. We have to work with the institution to find out what can happen. So we can do that. All right. Couple process changes you want to think about. The biggest one: transcript requests. We use parchment to send electronic transcripts, and most institutions accept transcripts electronically. Unfortunately, because we're not on campus, you do have to pay $2.75 to send these transcripts. You can access parchment in MyHGC. So in the left-hand corner, when you're in MyHGC, it says request my official transcripts. If the cost is an issue, talk to your cohort advisor. We may have some options for you, but please don't make cost a reason that you can't do this. I want to know if you're using the Common app, the Coalition application, the Common Black app, the free application, all these systems that may have a clearinghouse for transcripts. Please, as a transfer student, send your transcripts directly to your institution. Let me make that clear again. Send your transcripts to the institution that you're applying to, not to a clearinghouse process for your application. Since we're talking about these big applications, such as the Common and Coalition applications, they still may request a college report, enrollment verification, or a form of student conduct form. There's not a one-size-fits-all process for this right now. So in some cases, some of these requests can be uploaded with your transcript request form. Some of these requests may need to be sent to your cohort advisor, and we will work with our friends in records and registration to send those things. So those are things that may need to happen. In any case, your cohort advisor. So if you're trio, it's me, Stephanie, Carrie, Rashad. If you're in Ambitiones, it is Sandy. If you're in Howard Pride, it is Terrell and Sean. If you're in Silas Craft, talk to Jarrell, Miss Phillips, Mr. Pass. All of us can work through that with you. So looking at the chat for a second, there's a question. For students who've already sent transcripts before the start of the pandemic, would they need to be resubmitted? That will depend on the institution. If you apply to a school and you've been accepted, that means that they already received your transcript. You should be able to look in your portal for your institution to see where you're at or what may be missing. But for every student, once you've been accepted to a school, you still need to send your final transcript with your final grades at the end of this term. And for students who may also be earning the associate's degree, need to also make a second request asking for a transcript to be sent once your degree is posted. There's a little bit of delay. You get your final grades mid-May. Your degree may not be posted until early June. So you do need to send 2 transcripts at the end of this term if you know you're going to get your associates. So I hope that answers your question. The other piece we want to throw out there is this: recommendations. Some schools need recommendations. When you're in the Common app, it'll tell you, hey, you may need 1 or 2 required recommendations. You may have optional recommendations. Before you assign any of us to be a recommender, give us a heads up. We're busy. Just because we're at home doesn't mean that the work doesn't stop. So you do want to give us a heads up, ask us if we are able or willing to write a letter for you. Please, if possible, send us a copy of your resume, some key highlights. even your personal statement, because those things will help us write a better letter for you. Um, and just in reality, the things you send to us help us reinforce what you shared with the admissions committee, making sure that we have a holistic picture as part of this letter of recommendation, whether it's for a scholarship, whether it's for your application. And then give us time before these deadlines. I typically ask for 2 weeks. Doesn't mean that it's going to take me 2 weeks to get your letter done, but give me 2 weeks before the deadline or the deadline you set for the institution for your application will help all of us manage our stress and our anxiety, especially during these difficult times. So, this one I think is a fun one. Let me move this little box because I think it's blocking something. This is about transfer. I know that some of y'all have come to us back in January and February saying, I'm out of here. I'm done. I'm gone. Boom. But we do not know what the fall looks like yet. We don't know what's going to happen. Some schools are already saying we're going to continue to be online. So if you don't want to leave home until the Rona calms down, what are your options? So the first one would be this. If you're not done with your associate's degree, stay. We've talked a lot about reverse transfer. Reverse transfer is the process where you have a few classes left and you're just like, I'm ready to go. And so you leave and then you send back the courses from your transfer school and we earn your associates since you left. You also want to talk to your potential transfer schools. Learn what their plans for the fall look like. What does remote learning look like for them? Because some institutions are doing like us in the fall. They're moving to an online remote solution, but it doesn't mean that you're not still going to have an 8 a.m. English class on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's just you're going to be at home watching and engaging. But some institutions may do what's called asynchronous learning, meaning that, all right, we don't have to be online 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I'm going to record this video every day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. You just need to be engaged. So find out, what does remote learning look like? You want to find out, how do you engage in those things, all that. So do your research. The other thing that I've been suggesting to students is look at an interim transfer option. So if you know that you're majoring in business, you have a couple places you want to go, but you know you physically want to go to that school. Let's say it's Florida A&M in Tallahassee, Florida, but you're not ready to move to Florida until things clear up. You have your associates earned. You don't want to go over 65 credits. Let's look at transfer options that have robust online learning experiences. Here in Maryland, we are extremely blessed to have the University of Maryland Global Campus. UMGC is probably one of the biggest leaders in online education. It is a public institution, meaning that your tuition costs are reasonable as a Maryland resident. It is part of the University System of Maryland. It is the largest school in the state of Maryland. Um, and as a community college transfer, there are incentives for you to transfer to UMGC, even if it's your interim option. And for some students, you may realize that this might be a great option, period, especially if you're going to have to stay online, or if you found out that online learning works great for you, especially with your work schedule and all those things. So as you're thinking through these options, talk to us. We can work through some options. Application fee for UMGC is free. It's waived right now. So if you have not applied somewhere and you don't know what you want to do in the fall, consider UMGC as an option for most non-science majors. So, hey, I need water. So before I move into the questions that came from email, do we have any questions from y'all out there on YouTube? So I'm gonna pause for a couple seconds. All right. Since I see no questions in the chat box about what we just talked about, I know I've answered one already. Let's move on forward. So this is a question that actually came up quite often. How do credits transfer? Um, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but your transcripts are the key to this whole process about how do questions transfer. Um, you need to send your transcript from HEC and then all other post-secondary institutions that you've attended. You also need to send, as part of your credit evaluation, your AP, your IB, or CLEP scores. Now, I know that sending AP, IB, and CLEP scores to 10 institutions is a lot of money. So typically what we've advised students to do when we're dealing with, I know you got some AP credits or some CLEP credits, is to send just your HC transcript as normal. Once you're accepted to a school, send the other pieces that we've awarded credit for so that they can make their same determination. Some of the private schools that they may you may look at may also still ask for your high school transcript. And so if that's the case, we will help you reach out to your high school or find out how do you request that information remotely to be sent to a school. Um, Once you're accepted, you should get your notification about your transcript evaluation being done. Um, it will not have the credits you think. It should be literally everything you've earned up to the point of when you applied. Developmental credits do not transfer. So if the course has a 0 in front of it, so Math 061 through 070, do not transfer. English 083 through 099, do not transfer. There are some credit courses that may not transfer, but we'll walk through that. And your evaluation typically will not show your CLEP, AP, or IP scores unless you send them directly. By the time we get to mid-June, so you should have already determined where you're going. You should have sent your final transcript, and you should have had a transcript showing your associates sent. You want to talk to your cohort advisor, bring in your transcript evaluation, bring your fine trade award letter, and let's go over all of it because we may see some things that you may have missed, or you may see something that just doesn't make sense. One of my favorite stories, I'm going to use Jamira. She might be watching, she may not be watching. She went to Morgan State, and we got her transcript evaluation from Morgan, and it was missing a science class. It is a general education core science class. Here in Maryland, if we call it general education core, it transfers, period. That's what the law says. And so we had to sit down, work the phones a little bit, but we were able to make sure that her evaluation was correct. So remember, your cohort advisor is your best friend in making this happen. So looking to the chat, hey Javier, I'm doing all right. I really need to go to a beach. That's how I'm doing right now. I need a beach. So this is a question that actually came via text earlier this week. How do you make the best transfer decision if you're not able to actually visit the institution? So this is, I think, is a fun one for me because I'm thinking about just how I made some decisions about some of my schools, especially at graduate school. Stalker schools and social media is, I think, the best one right now. Look at what they're doing, watch their admissions office, follow them, engage with them. Look at the other areas. So I'm gonna use University of Maryland College Park because I follow UMD on Twitter and on Instagram. But I also follow a number of different offices on campus that support our students. So students who may be first generation, low income, students from diverse backgrounds, because I'm watching to see how they're engaging with their students, both currently enrolled and those who are prospective students. When you visit most of these institutions' websites, you may see that they have virtual tours of their campuses. Some schools right now are doing virtual admissions programs. Then also reach out to them and see if you can virtually meet with students, faculty, student organizations. And I would have said that even outside of a pandemic. If you are considering UMBC, if you've been on their sign up list, or if you look at your Canvas notifications from Trio, they're doing a week a transfer student week. So it's full of programming for potential transfer students. So do as much research as possible, take your list, dive into it, talk to your cohort advisor. We may know some students. Social media is also really powerful. I still like Twitter over any other tool. What you want to pull out there is this. Hey, I'm looking at transferring to Howard University. Use HU as the hashtag. What can y'all tell me about it? People are going to give you good, bad, indifferent. They may say some stuff. They may trash it. But whatever you can get, use all of the data and then talk to us. We can help you out there. All right. What's the best advice you can offer to a student who's moving out of state for their college? This also came in text. Also, the traditional speed is just plan. Plan. Know that for any institution you go to, off on-campus housing is going to be hard anyway for transfer students. So if you have the opportunity to visit in advance, or if you have family who's down there already, use them to help get you an idea of what's around the campus. You also want to be prepared for the cost difference of going out of state, knowing that many of your scholarships, your aid programs favor your in-state students, except in the case of a private school. And then we can work through our financial aid worksheet so we can look at all the aid, including loans, and find out what's going to be your out-of-pocket cost. And so this question for me is actually a big deal because when I was looking at college, undergrad, I wanted to go back to North Carolina. So I was out of state at that time, even though I'm from North Carolina. And that was easy. But when I went to grad school, I went to Iowa State. And I think everybody who knows me knows I've talked about Iowa a lot. And I visited once before I actually went to Iowa State. It was in the middle of the winter. I went for interviews. I got to see a few apartments, but it was this really type of like, I had no real independence during that time. And I had to make a lot of decisions based on what my future colleagues were telling me. The graduate college was really useful. And I like writing things, so I sent a lot of emails. So when I emailed property companies and they didn't respond back to me in a reasonable manner, or if their emails were far more snarky or unprofessional, I knew that was not a management company for me. So you still have to try to humanize and personalize this process. But ask questions, use all of us. We can make this out of state piece work. I'm going to pause here because I see in the chat box there was a question saying, for courses made before the start of the pandemic, fall 20 and spring 21, would you recommend I speak to an advisor to see if there's any class changes? I always recommend you talk to an advisor about everything. As right now, fall 20 classes are still listed as what they're going to be. So we need to keep watching to see what may change. So talk to your cohort advisor about that. Spring 21 classes aren't set yet, so we don't know what's going to look like that. But let's keep your plan. Let's look at your summer and see what goes from there. So hopefully that answers that question. So let's go back to the screen. If I get accepted into the school I want, does that mean I'm also accepted into my major? Not always. So a lot of times, and for many institutions, once you're accepted to an institution, you're also accepted into a major. Once you're there, you work with your advisor, you find out if there are any lower level classes you may need to take, where you need to jump into sequences, things like that. And we usually talk to you about that in advance of your admissions process. But if you're applying to school like College Park, Towson, UMBC, into what's called a screened or limited enrollment major, we definitely would have talked to you about, okay, you want to be a business major at College Park, or you want to be an engineering major at UMBC, or you want to go into deaf studies at Towson. These are classes you have to take to even be considered for admissions into your major. And in that case, we talk through what you need to do. We talk about alternative majors and what the institution may do if they say, hey, we want to admit you to the school, but not to your major. Is that an opportunity that you want to follow? A lot of the times for students, especially if you're going to College Park into a limited enrollment program, it may mean that there's a class that's not offered at the community college that you have to take at College Park, which means you're sitting in either letters and sciences or a pre-major just for one semester as you plan to apply to the program. So if you get accepted to your dream institution, but not into your major, talk to us about your options because in some cases it may be okay to go ahead and go with things up in the air because the likelihood you get into your major is really high once you finish that one additional requirement. I do want to note, and I should have put this on the screen, the universities at Shady Grove, which is a University of Maryland system site with multiple institutions for nearly every major there. If you choose Shady Grove, you have to have all of your program requirements done in advance to be able to go directly into your upper division major. So it does require working with us here at HUC, but also a Shady Grove advisor for that program to make sure that we have things in order for that program of study. So I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to go back to this enrollment deposits. If I don't have the money to pay, what can I do? I sent an email to a student this morning and I said this: reach out to the admissions officers, copy your primary cohort advisor. If you work with two of us and we're like intimately involved in the process, put both of us an email. And just indicate in your professionally written email that the enrollment deposit or the orientation fee may pose a hardship right now. The worst answer they can give you is no. Most institutions want you, so they're going to want to work with you. Some institutions, if they're willing to waive the enrollment deposit, mean that they say, okay, we'll waive it or we'll defer to the fall. Please sign this contract saying that you're coming to this institution, period. And we go from there. Again, the worst answer they can say is no. If you use the coalition application and you use a fee waiver, for most institutions who accept the fee waiver will also waive your enrollment deposit. So talk to us about that if you use the coalition app. So I'm going to pause again because I did get one text. So with transferring, we still use the Common App to help us with schools. So that's a little bit out there. It depends on what application system the school uses. So the Common application, the Coalition application, the Common Black app, the Universal College app are big applications that a lot of schools use, but not every institution uses those applications. So we have to look and see what school uses. So if you're applying to Towson, as a transfer student, you apply directly to Towson on their website using their own application. If you're applying to UMGC, they use the Common app. If you're applying to College Park, they use the Coalition application. If you're applying to Morgan, Coppin, Bowie, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, you have a variety of choices, including the Common Black app or applying directly on their website. So we have to look and see what's on your list, what applications we need to use. And then, I just answered Josh's question. And then the other question is, can I change my major when I transfer? Yes. So for many students here at the college, your major is general studies because either we did a meta major. So let's say you want to be in psychology, but you didn't like our social sciences track. So we put you in general studies, or you want to do engineering, but we need to get all these math classes done that Title IV Financial Aid won't pay for. So once you get to your transfer school, you can change your major, either through the application process or once you actually get on campus, talk to your advisor and say, hey, I applied in sociology. Over the summer, I realized that I hate people. So I want to change my major to something else. Let's see. Jay's watching. Is there a fee waiver available at UMBC? So when you apply to UMBC, in the Common app, there is a fee waiver that we've been using, UMBC XL20, and the name of the alumnus who referred you. So that's in the Common app. If you've already applied, you've been accepted, you don't need an application fee waiver. But if the enrollment deposit causes or is a hardship for you, then you want to reach out to the admissions office, copy your primary advisor. So in that case, Jay, that's me, and say, hey, this pandemic is making it a little bit difficult for us to pay this enrollment deposit and orientation fee. Can we waive it? Can we defer it to the fall bill with a commitment to stay at the institution? So it's just something to think about. All right. So thinking about transfer scholarships in Maryland. So this was a question that actually came from one of our staff. For all students who are eligible, do your FAFSA. Do it. The Maryland state deadline was March 1st. If you didn't do it yet, still do it. And then all students have the ability to do one of the two student state aid programs through MDCAP. So if you may be undocumented DREAM Act eligible student, Maryland DREAM Act eligible student, there's actually a state aid application similar to the FAFSA in MDCAPs. Once you do the application, whether it's just confirming what came from your FAFSA or doing the MISFA app in MDCAPs, you will then have access to the 2+2 transfer scholarship and other state programs from the Maryland Higher Education Commission. The other thing you want to think about is the fact that most institutions have transfer scholarships and institutional grants, and the biggest amount of money is available to students who've earned the associates already. So what you may want to be thinking about is, okay, and this may be really useful for students who are transferring for fall 21. What are my schools? What type of transfer scholarships they may have? So University of Baltimore is offering now the Parsons Scholarship. It's a new competitive scholarship. It's cool. Morgan State has their transfer incentive program. So they already give you some transfer money, but then if you're in a specific major, so English, chemistry, physics, they give you a little bit more money. So we want to look at where are those incentives available to you. And then we also want to remind you that applying to school is your primary transfer app. When I worked at Iowa State, the Iowa State University admissions application was called the admissions and scholarship application because many scholarships are done at that point. So for students who may be eligible for the Frederick Douglass Transfer Academic Excellence Scholarship at College Park, your application is the primary process to have you evaluated for access to that money and to open the interview process. So that's, I think, the biggest piece I can share right now. Want to talk about a scholarship that we've had students become finalists for. And I remember correctly, I think one of our students actually got it. And that's a dope thing. It's the Jack Kent Cook Transfer Scholarship. It is a highly selective scholarship. So that means that you need to have the best grades and you need to have outstanding engagement on campus. So just because you're in TRIO, Howard Pride, Ambitiones, Career Links, Silas Craft, cool. I need you still to be in Phi Theta Kappa, an honors program, be an athlete, student government. You need to be a holistically well-rounded student. And the way the Cook Scholarship works, it gives you approximately 2 to 3 years of funding. They actually have wraparound services. So you have an advisor from the Cook Foundation, you have a community of folk, and that money is awesome. They also want you to push and apply to schools that you may not have thought about. So we do talk about, let's look at the Ivies, let's look at the near Ivies. So Carnegie Mellon, University of Chicago, Duke. They're not schools we typically think about for transfer students because they aren't always as welcoming to transfer students. But we look at them, and the Cook Scholarship wants you to look at those schools also. So it is always worth, regardless, cast a wide net, follow your dream. But this scholarship is a really, really big deal, and we want you to think more than just Maryland or UMBC. So this is, I think, a really awesome question we deal with all the time. How do you plan your classes if you have more than one school on your transfer list? And I don't know if Professor Vaughn is watching this, but I have a math joke. We'll find the lowest common denominator. I don't have a drum set behind me. So what does that mean? So if I know that you're looking at being a engineering major, don't know what type of engineering, but you want to be an engineering major at College Park, UMBC, or Morgan, we need to figure out between ArtSys and the tools we know what are common between those institutions. So we know that you're going to need to have calculus at all of them. So Cal 1, Cal 2, bet. We can look and see, do you need to have Cal 3 before you transfer? So we can look at each of the three schools, see when in their sequence you would have taken Calculus 3, linear algebra, all those fun things. We also look at chemistry. And the reason why I use these three schools is because chemistry is the big one. If you're aiming more to like, I like UMBC more than College Park, then I'll say let's take Chem 1 and Chem 2 because that's what UMBC wants. College Park wants students to take Chem 135, which is chemistry for engineers. Here's the cool thing. If you took our 8 credits of chemistry, College Park will say, hey, you have more than enough chemistry. It's not our chem for engineers, but you have more than enough. Morgan's going to say the same thing. They may not like it, but you took 8 credits of chemistry to meet their 4 credit requirement. UMBC is like, bet, perfect. But if you took chemistry 135 and we'll go to UMBC, you're going to be short chemistry. So sometimes the lowest common denominator may mean that you may have to take more classes to ensure that you're good for your primary school, but also good for some other options down the line. We do the same thing in business. We do the same thing in nursing. We need to look at what are common classes, what is that outlier, and how can we make all of these things work. We do it all the time. A lot of times when we look at our requirements at HEC, especially ethics, we try to find a way to make an ethics requirement meet something else for your transfer school. So the great example would be if you're trying to do nursing and you're applying to University of Maryland, Baltimore, and you need a second English. Ethics and literature is great because you need, for us, ethics and general studies, but you need for them a second class and literature works. So our job is to figure out what works between multiple schools, what meets our requirements, but what makes the most logical sense. Cybersecurity. So we're in this whole pathways world. And so cybersecurity, IT, information systems, information assurance, computer science, they all are majors that fall along a very big pathway. So we would need to sit down and talk about what your goals are, may talk to computer services, business and computer systems, because it may not be in your best interest to stay in the cybersecurity major. It may be in your best interest if we know that your primary transfer school is Towson to put you into IT or computer science for transfer purposes or even general studies. Cybersecurity as a field is still relatively new, and a lot of schools may have not changed a major to say cybersecurity, but they meet those same requirements. So we need to sit down, we need to look. As advisors, we have a cheat sheet to remind us what school works well with our cybersecurity major, what schools work better with computer science. But regardless of it, if you're planning to do cybersecurity, IT, information systems, computer science, information assurance, management information systems, if we can work it into your process, then you want to also try to do your certifications if it works in your process. For some students, it doesn't work because of where we are at in the transfer process, but the CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus certifications are always great to have. So something just to be thinking about in this process. So I'm going to take a pause for a second. So I'm going to stop the video. If you have questions, throw them in the chat. I'm going to refill my water. Okay, I'm back. So, I did see that Jay had an additional question about the UMBC waiver. And so what I did put in the chat that on the COM application within the UMBC specific supplement, you waiver code UMBC X20 and any UMBC alumni. There's some application fee waivers schools that may need other information. They also need the form. So some schools use what's called the NACAC application. NACAC is just an application fee waiver. We just give you that virtually. I think I answered Joshua's question. I've answered all the questions in the chat. I want to thank y'all for rocking me for this hour. I'm gonna be around a little bit. I'm gonna leave the live on and the music playing. Throw some questions in. I want to thank Sandy for watching. She did ask for anyone who's going to California to school, take her with you. We'll miss her, but please, if you have questions after the show, contact your cohort advisor. So again, let's try this again. I'm back. So, and I was saying about Jay's question earlier, the UMBC XL20 fee waiver code is in the UMBC specific program questions in the COM application. Any UMBC alumnus. I think we've answered all the questions. I'm going to sit here a little bit. I'm going to have some music playing, and I'll be watching the chat for any other questions. If you do have questions a little more intense after this point, contact your cohort advisor. So if you're a student support services, then that could be me, Stephanie, Rashad, or Carrie. Check your Canvas messages because you would have gotten a message specifically from your cohort advisor during this time. If it's Howard Pride, it is Sean Lamb or Terrell Bratcher. Email them, Canvas message them. If it's Sandy Cos for Ambition, if it's Ambiciones, it is Sandy Cos. And if it's Career Links, Maureen Marshall, Silas Craft, it'll be Jarrell Anderson, Kansas to Pass, Angela Phillips. Please use our hashtags, HEC Stronger Together. Put it on Twitter, put it on IG, Snapchat, whatever. If you're in student support services, there's actually an assignment attached to that. Tell us why you're coming back to HEC. Put it in there. It supports your grant aid and other scholarship opportunities. We miss y'all. We'll see you soon. Again, I'll be here for a few more minutes. So put your questions in the chat. I'm going to put the music back on. Y'all have a great day. Be safe. Wash your hands. Wear your mask.